You're never going to get more out of your business if you're making the decisions about what you're going to lose.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Behind Their Success podcast. This morning we have on Genea Barnes. She helps entrepreneurs grow their businesses and have fun doing it by expanding their success zone. This results in steady, solid growth while working less and using fewer sales and marketing and money-making strategies. Genea, good morning. Welcome on Behind Their Success.
Good morning and good afternoon for those of you who are listening in the afternoon, and almost good night.
That's perfect. That's perfect. So Genea, tell us a little bit background, what you're doing currently, and just kind of a little bit how you got there.
So, currently I'm a performance coach for entrepreneurs. As you heard, I'm a speaker, podcast host also. And what I really do is I help entrepreneurs create success so that they can hold it. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs can relate to this, where you get the success and you feel like you're constantly scrambling, trying to keep up, trying to make sure that everything doesn't crumble. Or you just can't break a plateau. You can't get to the next level. And no matter how hard you work. And those are really good signs that the problem is not with your money-making strategies, not with the things that you're, quote, doing. The problem is with your success zone. And so I help people expand their success zone so that they can break those plateaus, actually enjoy running their business. Because I think everyone gets into it because they're so excited and so happy. And then you get into it, you get some success, and you're just scrambling and you lose the joy. You're like,
yeah, I mean, it's so easy, right? Yeah, you start your own business. You don't want to answer anybody, right? Like you want to do your own thing. And then if you don't know what you're doing, which nobody really knows what they're doing when they start there, you build your own new prison pretty quick if you're good.
Well, and it's funny, too, you say if you don't know what you're doing. But the thing I think that gets most entrepreneurs in trouble is that they're so busy trying to do what they think they should be doing, and they're not doing what's right for them. And that's the piece where I think we tend to run down a lot of paths that end up kind of screwing us in the end. Or we're just not ready for those particular things. We have certain things that we ourselves need to break through and overcome before we can actually do those things and hold the kind of success. And then my favorite, I just did an episode on this. It'll come out in a few weeks, but where you're trying so hard to take all that new information and fitting it into what you already know. But what you have to do is expand yourself so that you can actually see the information that makes a difference. And we're so busy trying to fit everything we hear and everything we learn into our little model of how the world works. And that, I think, is one of the things that screws entrepreneurs so badly, especially if you just keep doing different strategy after different strategy. And
in many ways, it's about unlearning all the crap that you think you know. And being humble enough to realize, like, okay, you grew up in some tiny area on the planet, or say tiny area, but like you grew up in some area on the planet. Your tiny little experience is not representative of how the entire world works.
Yeah. And you're right in the sense that we have this tendency to look at how we grew up and how we experienced life. And that's all there is. There's these boundaries. You could almost call these the boundaries of your success zone. There's more to it than that, but that's a good way to start to look at it. Like if you look at your parents and what you grew up around, that essentially is your starting zone of a success zone.
A lot of that stuff is fascinating to me. And I was listening to other podcasts the other day, but it's like, they were talking about kids of wealthy families, right? And the biggest advantage they have is not even the money or whatnot. It's they see what's possible. Like their parents, if their parents have done big successful things, like that becomes normal to them, right? And if you grew up in maybe a family that isn't doing all that stuff, you don't even realize that that's even possible for you.
Right. Yeah, I think it was Oprah Winfrey. We all know that she grew up super poor, but books were the thing that told her that more was possible. And for me, it was Superman. Like, I didn't see much movies and I didn't grow up with TV, but I'll date myself here. I was 5 years
Christopher
old when I
Reeves,
saw
right?
the original Superman, Christopher Reeves, but it made me believe that something beyond what I had in my life was possible.
That's really, I mean, that's what stories are, superheroes and stuff like that. That is exactly what that's designed to do, right? It's to inspire people and show what's possible. So that's cool. You can connect those dots. So you say, success zone. Can you define that or give me a little more parameters of what you mean? Like kind of talk a little bit about what someone's success zone is.
Okay. So your success zone basically is almost like a predetermined amount of success that you can have. And I think we've all had this experience like, oh, my business is going really great. And then I meet a new partner and I fall madly in love, and you dive into that and then things start slipping in the business. Or maybe you have a great relationship and you're trying to get the business going and the business starts going better and then the relationship starts to slip. So, or your health starts to slip. And so success really is about all areas of your life. And so your success zone is the amount of success you can hold and maintain. And that's the key right there, is maintain. And so if you want more than you have right now, to be able to maintain it without losing something in your health or your relationships, you're going to have to expand your success zone. Because right now, with everything that you know, all your beliefs, all your experiences that have brought you here, your understanding of the world, how you perceive the world, all that has gotten you here, your decision-making mechanism. And in order to get something different, you have to do something different. We all know that. And then we think that we're doing something different. Well, I'm going to try this new strategy. YouTube didn't work for me, so now I'm going to do TikTok. But so people keep switching and trying these new things, but the parameters of how they do things, how they look at the world, how they see the world, how they believe things to be, and how they make their decisions, that part is key, is the same. So you might have a lot of entrepreneurs are big picture thinkers, and a lot of them are not so good with the little tiny details. I speak for myself and a lot of other entrepreneurs I work with. So when you're talking about implementing money-making strategies or any kind of strategy, you've got to get into the nitty-gritty and the details to really optimize them. And now if you're a big picture thinker, you're not going to want to sit there and analyze why this video worked better and that one didn't. You're probably not going to keep super good track of the metrics. And maybe you're not in a position yet where you can hire someone to do those things for you. Or maybe you hire somebody too soon to do those things for you. And so you're going to bring those same habits to the next strategy and the next strategy and the next strategy. So you're going to get the same results. So one thing that I always talk about when you're talking about expanding your success zone, and this is very sort of anti what everybody says. Everyone's delegate. Hire that person to do that detail work. You have to remove.
Yeah, you need to understand it to a certain level first, right?
And it goes even beyond understanding it. You have to get to the point where you don't hate it, because those things that we're not good at, they make us feel like we're not smart, like we're insignificant or not capable or inadequate. And so that feeling drives our resistance. We don't want to feel that. Nobody wants to feel like they're stupid. So subconsciously, you're making decisions to avoid those things. And even if you're hiring somebody, I'm like, Paden, I really, internally, I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to do this stuff anymore. I hate it. I just want to get it off my plate. And I'm like, hey, essentially, you're my person I'm interviewing. And essentially, I'm coming at you with the energy, like, can you save me? And you're probably coming at the energy with the similar match, where you're like, well, I got to do everything I can to get this job. I got to, so I'm here with all this contracting emotion, like freaking out because I don't want to do the thing. You might be a terrible employee, potential employee, and I'm not going to see it because I'm wrapped up in this, I don't want to do this emotion. But if I don't have the resistance, I'm going to be able to see easily and feel easily if you're a good fit. But if I'm just trying to get it off my plate, you think about if a spider jumped on you, you're going to do everything you can to get it off your plate. You're not going to be real calm and make a good decision about where I should put the spider. And so people are doing this when they're hiring. And so you've got to remove the resistance. Once you're okay doing it, you'll make better decisions about how you delegate.
That's really good stuff. And Genea, it all comes back around again to like, none of this stuff's an external problem, right? It's all an internal problem. People get all upset about this and whatnot, but like, yeah, as you said earlier, the results of your life are 100% your responsibility. Not everything's your fault. Crap happens, right? But like, it's 100% your responsibility, and you are exactly where you at based off your response to everything that's happened in your life previously, right? And people hate that because they want to say, oh, all these things happened to me and I can't control. Well, yeah, of course you can't control the world, but you certainly can control your response to it, right?
Right. And I like to think about, we hear this, you can control your response to it. But what I think people don't realize is that in that response is a decision. You're deciding, and people don't feel like they're deciding because they react. It's so fast. Like, I like to show the Nike symbol to people, and I'm like, how long did it take you to realize what that was? And they're like, they didn't even know that they decided what it was. They actually made a decision, and that's how fast some of these decisions are happening. So you saw that symbol, you knew what it was. It was so instantaneous, you were not even aware that you decided what it was. And so a lot of the ways we respond is these decisions that are so fast we're completely unaware of. And when you expand your success zone, one of the major aspects of it is changing your decision-making mechanism so that those kind of decisions are different and you have much more control. And the ones that become so automatic like that are actually moving you towards what you want instead of trying to prevent all the things that you don't want.
Where you can, maybe program your subconscious, continually tell yourself of what you want, what you're looking for. And then those snap decisions that aren't really even conscious, you can get your brain to make the ones that you want, right? Through a little bit of, visualization practice and reprogramming a little bit. But that's the thing is that's getting habit set, right? And building that in your brain to where those snap decisions are ones like, okay, I got them to where they're not, running away from something, but actually moving towards, something that I want.
Are you looking for a new tax experience? Looking for an advisor that actually brings you high-level ideas and proactively plans so you aren't overpaying your taxes? Or how about one that even just responds and communicates in a timely fashion? If any of that resonates with you, you probably just have a tax preparer and not a tax planner. And it is through the tax planning process where all the value is found. I'm Paden Squires. I'm a CPA and owner of WR Tax Planners. We work alongside entrepreneurs and high-income earners, helping them pay the least amount of income taxes, both legally and ethically. We have saved our clients hundreds of thousands of dollars through specific strategies, and we guarantee we can find multiple tax-saving strategies that your current tax preparer hasn't told you about. If that interests you, head on over to the contact page at PadenSquires.com. There you can fill out a contact form and get a call booked to see what it would look like to have WR Tax Planners on your team.
So, Genea, you've helped a lot of entrepreneurs and stuff over the years. What's some practical things you see that are like common? When you're helping entrepreneurs, what are some like common problems, and even maybe a couple like practical steps? Some of our listeners can maybe talk or do implement if they're having similar problems.
Can I share a little bit of my story to kind of highlight a little bit what happens to people and why it's so hard to make the right decisions. And then I can share how to get out of that. So I grew up in what one might call a shit environment, lots of trauma, lots of stuff. And the thing that people don't understand about trauma is that everybody has it. And it's a buzzword. Oh, I can't do this because of my trauma. But here's the thing. Anytime you have a big emotional experience in your life that's overwhelming, you don't process all the emotions. And that's just that simple. So it doesn't have to be a big, crazy thing. You could be 3 years old and get lost in the grocery store from your parents, and you could have not processed all of those emotions. And by process, I mean you got scared, you freaked out, and then you came back to full neutral. You didn't hold any of that stress in the body. And so when that happens, when you have, quote, trauma or you have unprocessed emotions, your subconscious is going to make you run away from any situation like that ever again. So if that, we'll use that grocery store example, you might have a fear of doing things without other people. So you might have a fear of going out on your own as an entrepreneur and doing your own thing without the guidance of somebody else. You might have this gut feeling, but everybody around you is like, no, I don't think you should do that. And then you're just paralyzed to do it because your subconscious is trying to avoid that feeling ever again because you didn't process it, which means you can't handle it. And so in my own life, I had businesses before this business and they never worked. I had safety nets of my, day job and night jobs and everything else, but I couldn't get the businesses off the ground because I had so many of these things that my subconscious was trying to make me avoid. My success zone was really, really, really small. And the more of this stuff you have, the smaller your success zone likely is. And even if your parents are successful entrepreneurs, you'll still have these things. Like you'll have the framework of how to do it, but you'll still have trouble actually doing the things. And we know this because every entrepreneur
just don't do it.
They need to do. There's a question about that. We know we need to be consistent. We have to continuously do it. We have to, be able to keep doing it, even though we don't see the results forever and ever and ever. And so why is it that we keep pivoting back? And it's these little things like maybe Sally was your best friend and decided that she didn't like you and rejected you. And then you didn't process all of those emotions when you were 7 years old. And now you're so afraid of rejection. And then anytime, of course, you got rejected after that, it just made that subconscious fear stronger. Okay, so that happened to me a lot. But when you're in a state of stress, you can't make a long-term decision. It puts you in survival mode. You can only make a decision that's going to help you right now in the moment. And so I think a lot of people know that a lot of entrepreneurs are stressed out most of the time.
A lot of pressure.
And if you're feeling any kind of stress, you're going to only make short-term decisions, which are going to really keep you in that success zone. So the success zone, again, is that place where you feel totally comfortable to be who you are and to do things your way. So anytime you get out of that comfort zone, you're making decisions from stress because you're trying to avoid any of those unprocessed emotions. So here we'll get to the practical thing. So I had a client call me the other day and they were like, I just got back from vacation. Everything is crumbling. My staff is doing this and there was a fight and blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay. I'm like, you need to stop talking right now because this telling me what's happening is just spiraling you out. So before we do that, we're going to do this exercise.
Let's do it. Is it breathing?
So Paden, you want to do it with me?
Okay.
All right. First, think of something stressful just to get you kind of in a little bit of stress. Okay. So I'm going to ask you, we're going to keep this to internal things in your body, qualities or traits that you have. What do you have right now? I like to start with air to breathe right now. I have air to breathe right now. So just say it out loud, but you have to say the right now part of you as well.
I have air
So
to
say,
breathe
I have
right
air
now.
to breathe right now. I have a heart that pumps my blood right now. What else do you have right now?
I have 3 amazing children. Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's outside of you. What's inside of you? So I have health in my body right now.
I have coffee in my body.
Coffee in your body right now. And so what else do you have right now?
That's a good question. I have a sense of urgency. I've always, my personality has always had a sense of urgency of, hey, let's get moving, which helps me in a lot of ways. Stresses me out in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're trying to get you out of stress right now. So what else do you have right now? Well, I know you're an entrepreneur, so I'm assuming I'm going to go out on a limb. Do you have tenacity
absolutely.
right now?
I've battled through a lot of things even over the last month.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about what you battled through, but you have tenacity right now. You have resilience.
Discipline.
Right now. Oh, you have discipline as well right now.
Yep.
How about creativity?
Absolutely.
Do you have that? So you notice you could probably start to feel just in those last couple ones how you're like, oh, wait, that stress diminished a little bit. And so you keep doing this until you start to feel neutral. And if you want to take it further, keep doing it until you start to feel gratitude. Because the things outside of us, we can lose. And that's what we're afraid of most of the time. So we have to realize that we have the capability inside of us to deal with losing those things. And so bringing that now, you can access creative long-term solutions. But before, when you were in the state of stress, you can only access the same crap that you've been doing.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. Like when you're in a state of stress, I mean, the only thing your brain can think about is get the stress away, right? Like you say, the spider jump on you, get the spider away. Like your brain literally can't move past that until it's dealt with, right?
Yeah. And so my client, I walked them through it and we got to the state of neutrality. And I said, what are you most excited about in this situation right now? So they had to track and figure out. I was like pulling my team together. And then I was like, that's what you're going to go out there with the intention to do. And I said, do you need to tell me what happened now? Do you need anything else? And they were like, nope, I'm fine. I got this. And that's all it takes. You have to get yourself out of the stress so that you can access the creative part of your brain. And because you can't access anything new when you're in a state of stress, you're stuck with that success zone and only what you know. And that's going to keep getting you the same results over and over and over and over again. Yeah. It will put on different costumes and different characters will enter the play. The backdrop will be different, but it'll be the same situation over and over.
Just repeatedly.
And it's so frustrating. I spent my first 2 businesses doing it and this business doing it. And finally I cracked the code and everything started to work. And then I just kept making my success zone bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And now that's what I help other people do so that they can actually paint the life that they want, business and the life that they want. That's awesome stuff.
And, and that's the kind of stuff I've been working on for, I would say, probably 8 years now. And the kind of stuff between reading, podcasts, networking, mastermind groups that focus on this stuff constantly, right? Like I'm in a fantastic mastermind group that, of course it's business focused, but it's all areas of life, right? Like, I mean, it's marriage, it's everything. It's not like we can compartmentalize our lives. And many entrepreneurs have fantastic businesses. And those businesses many times become like this new mistress or distraction or whatever. And the whole rest of their life is just a disaster.
Right. And that's exactly what I was talking about, the success zone. It's your whole life. So they might have the successful business, but the rest of their life is a disaster because they've just moved all the success in their life to just this one area.
Everything
Right.
affects everything else, right? There is no way to keep it apart from each other.
Yeah.
So, Genea, obviously you've done a lot of work on yourself and whatnot. What do you think is your best skill that you have that allows you to really help entrepreneurs, or that has led you to get to this point?
That has led me to get to this point. I think really I can read between the lines. I can see, I can feel between the lines. So I can have a conversation with somebody and know what's going on in their subconscious mind. People might not like that very much. But here's the thing is I don't really have the judgment because I removed the judgment of those things for myself. And I dealt with those things in myself. And so I can see them. And I know we all have our stuff. And when people are lying to themselves, I can feel it. So I know to dig. And that's, as a coach specifically, and somebody who uses advanced mental techniques to help you get rid of some of that resistance, it's super helpful because we lie to ourselves more than we know. And you can't change it unless you can see it. So having somebody that can see it and really know when you're lying to yourself, even when you're really good at
Yeah, it
telling
sounds
people the
great.
lie and it's so convincing. One of my clients, she said that she was terrified to work with me because I'm the only person that was able to see through her shit. And she knew that she needed to do it because she had been, running that hamster wheel, going nowhere forever. But she had always been so smart and so quick that she could talk her way around everything. And so she needed somebody to be able to hold that. But it's scary because it means stepping into the unknown. And I think that's one of the pieces that people really need to understand. If they want more success that they have in their life,
Yeah,
they have to step into the unknown.
it's scary.
And that's scary, especially if you have some internal fears about like, maybe I'm not smart enough, maybe I'm not capable enough, some little voices.
Yeah.
Who do you think you are?
I bet
Running around in your
you
head.
do intimidate some people. Or just like from when they're, not in a bad way. I don't mean that in a bad way at all. But like, as in like, you've got yourself put together and whatnot. And people kind of come to you and they got that scared, little girl or little boy feeling or whatever, right? And they're trying to hide that, right? And
and to be fair, the reason I can spot it is because I've been there. Because what it took for me to crawl up from the depths of all of the crazy experiences and just keep going. Superman, thank you for showing me that it's possible. Because, as a little kid, I got knocked down over and over and over again. And those fears that were created really made it hard I had big dreams. I had a super creative, big picture mind. And when you feel like you've been forced, and I know a lot of people, trauma or not, feel like they've been forced to stay small or feel like they're not enough. When you have big dreams, that conflict within yourself makes living not easy. Because you want to go here. Some people don't have those big aspirations and those big dreams. And so they're kind of okay sitting in that small life, and that's okay. But if you're a person who has those big dreams and everything you do, you keep one step forward, two steps back, and just keep yo-yoing around the same place, it's torture to be in your life at that point because it's possible. You can feel it and you have it in you. But to try to get there and keep falling down or feeling like the world is out to get you or any of that stuff, it just makes it really not easy.
And a lot of listeners know, a bit of my story, just my background. And I very much chaotic childhood. Certainly there's people that had way worse childhoods than me, but I had an alcoholic father. He got involved in all kinds of stuff. And, as an 8, 10, 12-year-old, I was in all kinds of situations that there's no way in heck I'd put my kids in. And so a whole myriad of that, the trauma that came out of all of that. My dad passed away right after, while I was in college or just graduated from college. And so a whole lot of unprocessed trauma there that that's a lot of stuff I've dealt with over the last 8 years. And my career, my relationships, everything has gotten 10 times better or more since I started doing it.
Yeah, and this is an interesting thing when people talk about, well, how do you know when you're healed from your trauma? And I used to think when I was, a lot better than I originally was, but not as good as I am now, so to speak. I used to think it was when you could talk about what happened to you without getting emotional. And I think that's a really great place to be, because I think in the beginning, I used to, if I talked about it, I was so dissociated. And then I was so in the feelings. And then I got to the place where I could talk about it, but I wasn't emotional. But where you are when you're really over it and where it's not affecting your business anymore is when it really doesn't matter anymore. Like, it's part of your story, but it's the same as like that movie you watched last year that you can barely remember. When it gets to that point, then it's not affecting your business anymore and your relationships and your health, all of those things. But until you get to that point, there's still a little bit more to go. And the beauty of it is, though, I don't want to discourage anybody, is every layer that you pull back opens up more freedom and opens up your success zone, makes it bigger, more is possible, more joy is possible. You feel like you are more yourself than ever before. So I don't want to discourage people in that sense that it's like, oh my God, I have to get to this point and that's when everything will be okay. Every step along the way is so cool because it opens up more. And then you got the blessing of the experience to be able to experience all the different things along the way. And some people never get to do that. They just have one kind of core experience in their life and they just keep repeating it.
But it is amazing. The more work you do on yourself, you can start spotting all these patterns. Where you just sit back and watch, you're like, wow, you just keep doing that same thing over, and you have no idea you're doing it, right? And you just see it over and over and over, the same decisions, the same behaviors, and they're like, how come nothing gets better?
And we all do that. Even those of us who are super self-aware and who do this for a living, I still catch some stuff. I broke through some stuff within myself, because I do the work on myself, of course, as well. And it just unlocked something. I was like, oh my goodness. Like, seriously? Have I really been doing that's the silliest, dumbest thing? And we've all had that aha moment where you did something and you were just like, oh wow, I can't believe I never could see that before. But those are the juice of life. And when you have those kind of moments, those are the true learning moments. Those are the things that shift your business dramatically. I think every entrepreneur, if they wanted to sit down and really look at the trajectory of their business every time they had a massive shift in a positive way in their business, they will probably be able to trace it back to some aha moment, some mind shift moment that changed the way they
you're
perceived
right, some
everything.
mind shift moment, and then they made some scary decisions.
You have the mind shift, but you also have to take action.
You know what? I don't know how this is going to go, but pretty sure this is the right thing to do, and whatever, let's go do it. You know what I mean? And I get that, and I'm still getting better at that now. Like I've made moves in the last few months that there's a bunch of stuff where I'm like, what everybody's telling me I should be doing, I hope it's good, and I'm sure it will be. But it's like in the moment, you're just like, oh, all right, let's go.
And that's one of the things about an entrepreneur is we have to keep taking the steps without getting that instant feedback. We have to be able to put our faith. And if you're an indecisive entrepreneur, what you're doing is you're shifting back and forth between what am I trying to create and what am I afraid I'm going to lose. And so it's that back and forth, and you're never going to get more out of your business if you're making the decisions about what you're going to lose. If you're struggling between doing this or that, which one is about what you're going to lose and which one is about what you're going to create? Now when you step into what you're going to create, that's the decision that will take you forward. You have to do your best to make sure you stay out of stress when you're acting on that decision. Because if you're in a state of stress, you're worried about what you're going to lose, and you can't create and build from what you're going to lose because you're not in the present moment. If I give you a pile of Legos right now, you can't build something out of those Legos thinking about the Legos that you may or may not have tomorrow. You can only work with what you have right now.
I think, just even personally, I think something that slows me down is that thinking that, okay, the world's changed so rapidly. I start building something that, like, could it all just be for a waste? You know what I mean? Like, and that's just stepping into that faith, right? And thinking, well, I got to start building something. What else are you going to do, right? I mean, right? Like, if you just sat here and say, oh, well, the whole world's going to hell or it's changing or whatever, like, well, then you'll never build anything. So you got to be able to just, like you said, long-term thinking, act in faith.
Yeah.
Just stringing good decisions together.
Well, what's something that you built in the past that didn't work out?
That's a great question that I probably need to ponder on for a while. That's a great question.
I'll share something of mine. So one of my businesses was a photography business, and I, obviously knew how to be a photographer, knew how to work with Photoshop, do graphic stuff, all of this stuff. And that business failed miserably. But here I am as an entrepreneur. You know how many times I've used those skills? Almost daily. And how much money it has saved me because I didn't need to hire out, and time because I didn't need to go back and forth 100 times with some graphic designer that wasn't quite getting my vision. Because especially in my early days when my communication wasn't really great and I had a hard time telling people that I didn't like what they created. So all those skills got me through that. So it doesn't matter if what you build is a waste. It's never a waste.
The big mindset shift is, like, you are what you are building, right? Like, not even anything externally, right? It is, and if you focus on that, if you are what you are building, no matter what you are working on externally, it is growing you, right? And it is expanding you. Maybe making that shift of realizing that I'm the product, not necessarily the business or whatever I'm working on, right?
And that comes back to that place of removing the resistance. So if you build this company, whatever you build, if it gets taken away, you can build it again. But if you way faster. But if you hired all the stuff you don't like out, you're going to feel like you can't build it again, and you're going to be afraid of losing the business. And what are those decisions? If you're afraid of what you're going to lose versus what you're trying to create, you're going to be worried about what you're going to lose. This is why so many entrepreneurs lose everything. Successful entrepreneurs lose everything a handful of times. Hello. Because that process of losing it all and rebuilding it and losing it all and rebuilding it happens a lot of times for a lot of entrepreneurs. And that makes them break through all of the stuff, all of the resistance. So they stop having resistance to any of that stuff. And then they'll just make business left and right. And they'll start expanding into bigger and bigger things because they need a challenge. And also why most entrepreneurs bootstrap their first business, because they get those opportunities to break through all the mindset stuff and the fears, all of that stuff. And then after that, they'll never usually bootstrap a business again.
Same here. Bootstrap my first business, grown it. Now, like, my execution power, my skill set, like, I'm 100 times the person I was, 10 years ago, right? When I started this business. So I do need to be grateful and thankful for that experience, because breaking through all those levels, of course, my job as I'm a CPA, CFP, do tax and wealth, and really just business consulting is similar to you. Yes, I have a money focus, but a lot of my stuff is just sitting here calling out people's BS or my clients' BS, where I'm like, hey, there's a whole lot of business and personal consulting that goes along with that client.
Oh yeah. I mean, especially when you're talking about money. Money's a big thing. I was on a call with somebody recently and they were like, oh, I don't have the money. I'm like, well, I have the time. Let's just do a simple budget for you. And we worked it out. And like, basically, what's your expenses per month? What's your income per month? And I said, oh, so you could easily save $500 a month. And they're like, and they got so emotional. And well, no, I have this, and this. And so we wonder about why our money isn't so great, because there's so much emotional stuff tied to it. And when you break through that, then you look at the spreadsheet, and then we broke it down even more. And that person had $1,000 a month. Realistically, if they really were just spending on the basic stuff, they could have saved $2,000 a month, once we broke it down. But because we have so much emotional stuff tied to the money and tied to the success and growth of our business, we are selling ourselves short and staying small in a way because we have all that crap that's in the way.
Genea, what is one piece of advice you'd give your younger self?
Learn how to sit still in the quiet.
Tell me a little more about that.
So when I was a teenager, probably the thing that saved my life was sitting on the beach for hours and hours and hours. When everything would get to be too much, I'd just go to the beach and sit on the beach. And what I didn't realize is in that sitting still, I was processing emotions. And by the time I started drinking and doing all these other things, those other things started causing me to not process emotions even more. But I know in my first business and all through my 20s, I couldn't sit still. And so one of the most profound things I did early in expanding my success zone was I just started sitting in the quiet still. If I felt fidgety, I sat through it. So that's it. And that made me start making decisions towards my future. It up-leveled my joy. And I just started doing it every day. And that would be the one thing I think if I had started much earlier. And subconsciously, I knew it.
Without like someone telling you.
I was sitting on the beach to save my life. Like we have the knowledge of what we need to move through all of the stuff in our life within us. We're just not quiet and still enough.
Especially, I would say, especially probably entrepreneurs, just because, so many of them do have that urgency and undealt with trauma and all that stuff. You know what I mean? And that's what causes them to run around everywhere. That's some great stuff. Genea, this has been an amazing conversation. It's been a great episode. What is the best way people can connect with you or just interested in learning more about you?
I have a guide out there for everybody. It's the 3 secrets the business gurus never talk about. It's about growing your business and having fun doing that. You can grab that and open up your browsers, everybody. You do it now because you're like, oh yeah, I want to do that thing, but just do it now. Type in ideservethisgift.com and you can grab that. You can also find me on Instagram at Genea Barnes, which is with a G, everybody, not a J. Genea
and
Barnes.
Listeners, obviously you got some amazing advice here from an expert. So absolutely check out her stuff. And listeners, we will catch you next time.
Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. If you found it valuable, please rate, review, and share it. That is the best way to help us build this and reach more people, as we're trying to accomplish our goal of help creating more healthy, wealthy, and wise entrepreneurs. You can follow us on social media by searching for me, Paden Squires, or going to PadenSquires.com. On the website and social media, we're always sharing tips of personal growth, and there we can actually interact. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, guys.